sudden, sharp sound of shattering glass sliced through the gentle hum of lunchtime chatter. The diner froze in an instant. A bottle of red wine rolled across the black and white tiled floor, spilling its contents in a slow crimson stream that spread like blood. In the middle, a woman in a pale blue dress, trembling hands, one over her pregnant stomach and the other shielding her face, knelt. Above her rose a man clutching a black leather belt like a coiled snake about to strike. The polished face of his watch glinted with the light of the chrome, to become another cruel glint of power, transformed into pain. That man was Victor Hale, the billionaire CEO admired by millions of people, a regular face on the covers of glossy magazines, the kind of man people envied for his wealth and charm. But the woman at his feet knew the truth behind that facade, knew the monster behind the smile. If you believe that kindness, courage, and standing up for what's right can still change the world, then take a minute to like, share, and subscribe to Real Kindness Stories. Every small click helps stories like this reach the hearts that need them most. Once, Alina had believed in fairy tales. She had thought love could tame cruelty, that wealth was security. But months of hidden bruises and whispered apologies had shattered those dreams. And now, inside this bright and bustling diner on a quiet Thursday afternoon, her world broke completely. Victor was stone-faced, his words as sharp as venom. He didn't care that a dozen pairs of eyes stared from the booths nearby or the tears that stained his wife's dress. Control comforted him. Power was his addiction. Fear, his favorite weapon. Around them, the customers sat frozen. Some turned away in shame, pretending not to see. Others stared down at their plates, hoping that it would pass. The waitresses behind the counter stood motionless, caught between fear and conscience. Even the air seemed to carry the dead weight of their silence, the kind that makes ordinary people complicit in cruelty. Alina tried to stand, her body trembling, one hand on the edge of a booth for balance. But Victor's voice thundered through the diner like a whip crack. "Sit down," he barked. She stumbled, knees scraping against tile, her tears mingling with spilled wine. Then the chilling sound came, the hiss of leather slicing through air. Every heart stopped, but before the belt could strike, the glass door burst open. It had been a low growl of motorcycles that no one had noticed until now. The diner's bell jingled once, twice, and then stopped. The air shifted, thicker, heavier. Wind and motor oil wafted across the room as 5 men stepped through the door, their black boots echoing against the floor, their vests read Hell's Angels. At the center of them all was a man named Ryder Cole, a tall, broad-shouldered man with streaks of grey in his beard and calm, deadly eyes. He'd seen cruelty before, in dark alleys, in bars, and sometimes reflected in mirrors. But this, a man raising his hand to a pregnant woman in public, that was a line no real man ever crossed. Victor turned, startled, but still defiant, the belt dangling loosely from his hand. "This doesn't concern you," he spat, the arrogance dripping from every word. The bikers didn't answer. They didn't need to. They just kept walking, slow, deliberate, each step heavy with quiet authority. The diner was silent except for the sound of their boots against tile. The waitresses moved aside. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Alina looked up through her tears, her breathing ragged and uneven. The moment Ryder's eyes met hers, the world seemed to come to a standstill. In that quick flash of a second, she saw something she hadn't felt in months. Safety. Ryder stopped a few feet from Victor. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His presence alone carried the weight of a storm. When he finally spoke, his tone was calm, low, and sharp enough to slice through fear. "Put it down." Victor blinked, a veil of arrogance concealing real unease. He forced a smirk. "You don't know who I am," he sneered. Ryder's expression didn't change. "I don't care who you are," he said evenly. "But if you ever touch her again, you'll find out who we are." Behind him, the other bikers fanned out, silent, steady, unflinching, their eyes locked on Victor like wolves daring their prey to make a move. One of them stepped forward and gently helped Alina to her feet. Her legs were trembling beneath her, but she stood, hand on her belly, the other gripping the biker's arm for balance. Victor's mask of confidence began to crack. His eyes darted between the men as he weighed up his odds. In boardrooms and glass towers he was untouchable, but here, among men who lived by loyalty, not money, he was small, powerless. The belt slipped from his fingers, hitting the tile with a dull, heavy thud. The sound carried through the diner like a sentence passed. The bikers never laid a hand on him. They didn't have to. Their silence was louder than any punch, their stillness more powerful than any threat. Around them, the customers stared, the shame of their earlier silence hanging thick in the air. Victor, his face twisted with humiliation and rage, whirled around. He stormed out into the darkness, the door slamming with a force that seemed to ring out like some sort of justice. Ryder let out a slow breath and knelt beside Alina. "You safe now?" he asked softly. She nodded, still with tears shining on her face. No words, just gratitude. One waitress came hurrying over with a glass of water, while another gently laid a towel around Alina's shoulder. The diner slowly started to breathe again. Conversations began anew in hushed tones. A person mopped up the spilled wine, another one swept away the shattered glass, but something was different. The fear hanging in the air was gone, replaced by courage. Ryder stood and looked out at the crowd, his voice steady but firm. Don't ever sit quiet when you see something like that, he said. Silence protects the wrong people. Then, not a word more, he turned towards the door. The bikers filed out after him, as quietly as they had come in, silent and determined, leaving the space outside feeling oddly brighter, safer. Outside, the engines roared to life, a thunderous symphony of defiance. Alina stepped to the window, one hand resting over her heart as she watched them ride away into the sunlight. Her reflection in the glass looked different, still fragile, still healing, but alive. For the first time in a long while, she felt the spark of strength rekindling inside her, and gratitude for strangers who became angels when she needed them most. Sometimes, heroes don't wear suits or capes. Sometimes they wear leather, ride steel, and carry the kind of courage which the world has forgotten. If this story touched your heart, and if you believe courage can rise from the most unexpected places, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Real Kindness Stories. Let's remind the world that standing up for others still does matter. And before you go, tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were in that diner? Because kindness doesn't always look gentle. Sometimes it looks like strength. Sometimes it comes in wearing a leather vest and says, touch her again. I dare you,